Mr. Chancellor, Madam President, guests and colleagues, members of the graduating class, it is my great pleasure to introduce Constance Backhouse, who is a professor at the Faculty of Law at the University of Ottawa. It is hard to know what to highlight in an introduction of someone who is as accomplished, 3 sole-authored books, all winners of prestigious awards, the first Canadian president of the American History Society, who is as honored as a scholar, the Shirk Gold Medal, a Trudeau Fellow, 3 honorary doctorates, and who is as recognized as an exemplary citizen with the Order of Ontario and the Order of Canada, as is Professor Constance Backhouse. All of these accolades come to her as a feminist, human rights, legal history scholar and activist. Not the easiest or most certain path to fame and honor, and thus a testament to how truly outstanding she is. But given that Professor Backhouse is a woman with a strong sense of occasion, it seems appropriate on this occasion to introduce you to Constance Backhouse, the professor. She is in teaching, as she is in everything she does, award-winning. But it was not always so. After receiving her master's in law from Harvard, Professor Backhouse started her teaching career at the then University of Western Ontario. In her first years, she received abysmal teaching evaluations, and I mean abysmal. And here is the lesson of hope for those of you graduates who have not yet performed to the best of your ability. You can have a rocky start and still go on to greatness. Professor Backhouse did this in her teaching. Through a lot of hard work, she took courses, had colleagues give her feedback, and she asked her students what they wanted and what they needed. But most importantly, she figured out how to bring herself and the things that she cares about into the classroom. Her passion for learning, her thirst for new ideas, her love of history, her activism, her feminism, all infused with an unerring commitment to social justice. She became a supportive, demanding, open, challenging, electrifying teacher who now regularly receives perfect scores on her teaching evaluations. She teaches feminism and social justice in terms of both process and content. And in doing so, she builds community. Community is one of the things that Professor Backhouse cares the most about. She is a community builder through and through. Every time she teaches, she creates a social justice community. It is a lesson that her students never forget. Mr. Chancellor, in recognition of her outstanding contributions to human rights advocacy and the advancement of social justice, I request that you confer the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa upon Constance Backhouse.
By virtue of my authority, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for that very memorable and stirring introduction. First, I want to congratulate each of you for choosing the wonderful range of studies that fall within the Faculty of Public Affairs. When I took arts at the University of Manitoba, there were no first-degree courses in many of the fields you have studied: legal studies, criminology, international affairs, public policy administration, or conflict resolution, just to name a few. The subjects you have chosen at Carleton form the essence of what Canadians need to help understand the world around them. precisely because the content may not obviously be linked to defined career objectives, your degrees offer an extraordinarily rich opportunity to learn for sheer interest and the pleasure of learning. It forms the best of what a university is about. This afternoon, I would like to speak about the word feminism, a word that Professor Majuri used to introduce me. It is a word that has always been controversial. Indeed, some people joke and call it the F word. I admit that I was hesitant to call myself a feminist in my younger years. It wasn't until I graduated from law school and went into the workplace full-time that I began to self-identify as a feminist. I started working as a fledgling lawyer in the late 1970s and discovered to my great dismay that women were not treated equally in the workplace. Yet I was very lucky to have begun my career in a time when the feminist movement was in full swing. I looked around me and I saw feminist communities springing up in every direction, challenging sexism and unfairness on every front. And I took the word feminist, and I took the plunge, and I never looked back. But even in the 1980s and 90s, when the women's movement was really at its peak, feminists were in the minority. And it surprised me that so few women wanted to claim the label. So bravely, I thought, one afternoon, I asked my history class students why people were so against feminism. And their heated, detailed, lengthy responses really made me catch my breath. I was astonished at what people seemed not to know about feminism, about how many misapprehensions were in circulation. And I continue to be surprised that the word feminist raises so much ire and anxiety. I wonder why people would ever object to the basic feminist idea that women and men should be equal, that men and women should be treated equally in the workforce, that people should not be streamed into certain careers based on gender or paid less because they're female, that men and women should be treated equally in education, that our schools should ensure that the curriculum is gender inclusive, that our universities should ensure that research focuses on questions of importance to women as well as to men, that men and women should participate equally in politics, government, and business, that the responsibilities of parenting and household work should be fully shared between spouses, and that there should be an end to rape, to wife battering, to child sexual abuse. When I began to give speeches about feminism in the early 1980s, I used to tell my audiences, I stood up proudly and I said, the problems of sex discrimination will be resolved in our lifetime. I believed that, with a fervor and a certainty that only youthfulness can now explain. But perhaps it was optimism like that that allowed so many of us collectively to accomplish so much change over the past 3 decades. So what have we accomplished? Battered women's shelters, rape crisis centers, paid parental leave have appeared. Separate advertisements for male jobs and female jobs have disappeared. You used to have to go looking in the newspapers, it sounds quaint, under the men help wanting and the women help wanted ads. Maternal deaths attributed to self-induced abortion disappeared. All male media newsrooms disappeared. And a problem without a name came crashing into public consciousness when a new phrase, sexual harassment, was coined. Bertha Wilson was appointed the first woman on the Supreme Court of Canada, just down the hall here. Canadian banks grudgingly stopped demanding that loans to women had to be co-signed by men. The public service stopped firing all its female employees who got married. Feminists struggled to combat child sexual abuse, to integrate women into blue-collar trades and into the professions, to champion female artists, to reconceptualize women's health. But today, despite our best efforts, much gender discrimination remains. The most recent count on women politicians in Parliament show a paltry 22%, ranking Canada 49th in the world and behind Rwanda in political gender parity. Wife-beating shows no signs of diminishment. Fewer than 1 in 10 women who are sexually assaulted ever report the crime, continuing to believe, as they have done for centuries, that the shameful stigma of rape attaches to them rather than to the real culprits. More than 40% of the Financial Post 500 companies are directed by all-male boardrooms. The leaky pipeline drains women from partnerships in Bay Street law firms and parity in science and engineering. And discrimination on the basis of gender is not our only challenge. Race, disability, religion, sexual identity all require our urgent attention. And pay disparities have diminished. When we started, women used to get paid 58 cents for every $1 paid to men. Today, we earn 71 cents for every $1 paid to men. 30 years of feminist activity later, I have come to realize that although we have made some progress, this is going to be a longer battle. But I have been very heartened by how many of my students agree with the concept of equality. They may not all take the label feminist, but they side with feminist goals. And although I used to think that only women could claim to be feminist, I have changed my mind about that. I have changed my mind about many feminist strategies over the years, and some of my most impressive male students have challenged me on that point, teaching me that men who believe in gender equality can claim feminism too. My female and male students have been my greatest inspiration. So this afternoon, I want to pay tribute and say thank you to all the students who have inspired me to keep on with the struggles for equality. Feminists from my cohort are secure in the knowledge that your cohort, the next generation, will take on these battles, develop new and better strategies, and continue to make progress. Before I leave you, I want to say a few brief words about the very real challenges that face all of the graduates here as they search for jobs and careers in the years ahead. An economic tempest surrounds us, and I know that some of you will not have a job lined up yet. I would urge you not to despair, because you will find jobs, all of you, and those will be good jobs, and they will lead to exciting and fulfilling career paths. The next 10 years may be turbulent and deeply unpredictable. Your career directions may not yet be clear, but you are very well placed to negotiate your way. I predict that your class will bring forward some of Canada's most influential future leaders. Why do I say that? In its more than 70-year history, Carleton has gone from strength to strength, building on its bold commitment to interdisciplinary studies and its outstanding geographical position in our nation's capital. A mere stroll away from the heart of our country's political structures, Carleton students are accustomed to being near the epicenters of power. As Carleton grads, you have interacted daily with dedicated, inspiring professors and rubbed shoulders with bright, committed students from across Canada and the world. The next decade is yours, and the graduates sitting in this room are the ones who will make it so. You have not settled for short-sighted, narrow technical studies that may be rendered obsolete as quickly as they are mastered. You have wisely chosen to navigate subjects that are diverse, complex, and creative. You have developed adaptable skills that will allow you to maximize opportunities to make sense of a complicated world in rapidly changing times. You are nimble thinkers, effective communicators, strong researchers, and curious citizens, the most important attributes for our unpredictable future ahead. So take risks, innovate, challenge things that are unfair, embrace change. Our country is desperate for your generation to take over the reins of power and turn things upside down for the better. And I know that Carleton public affairs graduates will be in the thick of that. So I will close today by reading you a few words from a graduation address devised by Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss was one of my favorite books as a child, and it was one of the favorite books of my children when they were young. And it's interesting to remember that he wrote for a very long time. At the age of 86, he wrote the remarkable book called Oh, the Places You'll Go. So I'll just read a few lines, my favorite ones. Oh, the places you'll go, there is fun to be done. There are points to be scored, there are games to be won. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. On you will go, though the weather be foul. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. Onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.25% guaranteed. And I think maybe the 1.75% is just there to make it interesting. So good luck to all of you. Please know that we're counting on you. Thank you.